think one thing that a lot of fans have mentioned, I've mentioned it too several times during the offseason, and they still have an available roster spot open, was do you feel this team needs to try to find a backup point guard at some point? I think, the Memphis game and even the Philly game last night, it was pretty apparent. I know they're trying to, develop Marcus Sasser
Mhm.
into a point guard. It's not really slighted him. I've always kind of viewed Marcus Sasser just like a bucket getter at the end of the day. I've never really viewed him as just like a guy to, set up your offense. I think he's capable of doing it, but not like every possession, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think Sasser is someone who is sometimes maybe tough to evaluate him because he doesn't really get extended minutes too often. And I asked JB about that last night, just his comfort level with Sasser, assuming depending on how many games Cade may miss throughout the season. And he did mention that Sasser is someone he trusts. He makes the right plays. He doesn't turn it off over a ton. He usually makes the right reads. And so I think he is a decent option given Cade may miss time or whatever. But if there was someone you could possibly get as a backup point guard, that would be, I would say, an opportunity you likely wouldn't pass on, just because of the injuries and things like that. Because you, at that point, would want someone who could possibly slot in as a fringe starter, so you can have Jaden off the ball. And so, yeah, if you can find someone who's like fringe starter, really high level second unit guy, then I would say you probably try to get into that for sure.
Yeah, I have three names right off the top of my head that
Okay, let's see.
and it kind of like goes into like the next segment. Obviously, there's a lot of trade talk picking up as we get closer to December 15th. So I mean, the Bulls, it seems like everyone's available. Do you see what you can get for Lonzo Ball? I mean, I know he's injured. I mean, that's kind of like a floor general pass first
Mhm.
guard that you could possibly target. Dennis Schroeder's maybe a buy low option with the
Yeah.
Brooklyn Nets. Malcolm Brogdon from Washington. I think those are three options that I think are at least obtainable, where you probably don't really have to mortgage the future to get
Mhm.
these guys because they're on expirings.
Of those three, I would right off the bat say Brogdon, just because of the level of maturity. He's been in different roles in his career, so I don't think he'd have an issue with whatever JB would ask him to do. Um, and he's a bit bigger, I would say. I want to say like 6'4", maybe 6'5", but um, yeah, I do like Schroeder, but he can be up and down a bit. He's sometimes just a wild card. Um, And yeah, I think Brogdon would probably be the best option there, just being another veteran in the room when majority of this team is like 22, 23. So yeah, I think Brogdon would be a pretty nice option for sure.
I mean, you never really know what Washington's going to do. I mean, they just had no win November, which I didn't know they were going to
Man,
participate in, but here we are.
yeah,
But I'm happy we're not in no win November.
right.
Had 8 wins, most since 2018. So that's saying something, progress. But
Definitely.
I know when we do other podcasts, we've mentioned Brogdon, and I do want to give like subscribers credit. They said that like Brogdon kind of plays like Cade Cunningham. They have similar body types, and that could be like a really good veteran for him to learn under. Because if you kind of follow Cade Cunningham's career, like the best backup veteran point guard that he's ever had to learn from is Corey Joseph, and that's no slight at Corey Joseph, but Malcolm Brogdon I think is a much better player than Corey Joseph. Kings legend Corey Joseph.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that would be good for Cade, just because at this point I would say, like, just mainly based on age, Tobias, um, Tim Hardaway, those guys are kind of Paul Reed a bit. Like, those guys are more the vets on the team, and none of them are point guards. So that would be nice to have someone maybe in Cade's ear from time to time on the bench who's seeing things that he might not. From what I remember too, I'm gonna need to check this, but I always felt like Malcolm was pretty efficient with the ball, so he may have tips for Cade on not turning it over as much. Um, so yeah, I think that would be a good option.
Yeah, I think this trade deadline, like the more I'm reading into it every day, I think it's going to be probably the more active trade deadline that we've probably seen in several years. Like
Mhm.
I could see a lot of centers getting traded. I could see a lot of like point guards getting traded. And especially with the new CBA, I think some teams are not going to want to be in that first and second apron
Yeah.
tax to try to get out of it. And I mean, I know Trajan had mentioned before the season started, they'll take on a bad contract and get draft compensation. Um, to fill out their last roster spot. I mean, I think some people have talked about backup point guard. Other people have talked about center, which I don't really know if you want to carry four centers on this roster.